one of the matchups of the stage, maybe even of the year. Elevate and Gaming Gladiators go head-to-head. Dev, do you want to throw back to this little point you were making about this head-to-head?
Oh yeah, an exciting time. This is a match of greats from the Southeast Asian region. It's Indonesia versus Thailand, and both of these teams have an equal head-to-head rating. It's 3 matches apiece in all time between the various different leagues these teams play. And even within APAC South, the very first Playday of APAC South, I believe it was the very first match, Gladiators, at the time Renatus, actually beat Elevate. So that was a huge upset. Elevate were totally the favourite team. They just come back from SI. And yet in Stage 2, Elevate went and got their revenge and beat Gladiators back. So even just in APAC South this year, we are tied for head-to-head. This truly could not be more split. And like you've been saying, with such massive implications behind this game for Six Invitational for Elevate and for the Major for Gladiators, they won't be holding back an inch.
Well, you've made the comment, 6 Invitational is where we look to Elevators. Unfortunately, they cannot make the Major, but one more international appearance for their 2022 season is on the line. Here's how it stands. Mandy, when you look at this and you kind of sum up the way that this all works, they have a 77% chance to make it through to SI with a 99.2% chance. It's a little bit difficult to explain that, but there is still 4 different ways in which they will have to go through completely different qualifying path.
Yeah, this graphic is very dependent on that midfield. Essentially, the midfield goes between Elevate, a wildcard, and the Knights, and so that third probability of 99.2 in an Elevate regulation loss is simply because we go past the head-to-head, then we go into round difference instead, and eventually Elevate come out on top in that midfield and puts them in 4th place. But being in that top 4 is essentially what Elevate need to make it into the Major, and so it really hinges on them going into a regulation or at least an overtime win against Game Gladiators today.
Ooh, I mean, there is a lot on the line. There is a lot on the line for Elevate. I don't think I've ever seen such contrasting chances of making something as big as SI, the biggest tournament of the year. And one team that may not make it to SI, there's still a chance. Actually, I think it's very minimal, is the Gaming Gladiators. Their sights are set elsewhere, but Dev, they have been nothing short of incredible, nothing short of impressive ever since they made their debut in APAC South.
Yeah, it has been quite a year for the Gladiators, coming in from just their national league. Even some players, such as Rix, playing back in Pro League, in Southeast Asian Pro League, back in, 2018, I think he was playing, and way back in the day. Before many people were watching or playing Rainbow Six that are likely watching or playing it right now. These guys have been grinding for a long time. They knocked out teams as well known as Bliss and Order in the qualifiers in the promotion tournament to get here, and they have destroyed any opposition, questioning whether they deserve that spot, because since then they've taken down teams like Elevate, they've qualified and been to the Major and won games in Berlin. Now they've come back and they're looking to repeat defeat at another Major, and honestly I back them in. They just need to hold their ground. If they get themselves a win here, regulation or overtime, it doesn't matter, they will guarantee that they will go to the Major and Fury won't be able to catch up.
Well, it's a very simple way of making it so. Let's make this a little bit clearer for everyone at home that maybe is a visual learner like myself. This is essentially what has to happen. It looks complicated. Again, it's not. It actually looks simple. It actually looks really simple.
You're making it complicated, I think.
I am. I'm making it complicated because that's my job. I am a host. You got to remember this. Basically, once again, I'm going to go with the 77% chance that Gladiators make it through tonight. There are some pretty crazy outcomes, but obviously Gaming Gladiators win. They're all good, Mandy. They're all home on the safe stretch at the very least.
Yep, it doesn't matter how the Gaming Gladiators win, whether it is in overtime or whether in regulation. As long as they win today, they will go to the Major. Things get interesting if they don't win today. It gives Fury that chance at redemption in the second matchup for tonight. So if Gaming Gladiators lose in overtime, they will have a not small chance, but Fury have got to win in regulation. That's doable in their second matchup. They are playing against Tide. If Gaming Gladiators lose in regulation, could also possibly happen in today's game against Elevate, then Fury have an even better chance at making it in. Pretty simple if you put it that way, but it all compounds on the results from that first matchup.
Look, to be honest, I think the best case scenario for everyone here right now is an overtime win for Elevate. I think that would make things very interesting. But one thing that might add a little bit of spice into this conversation is, of course, the map pick. So let's go ahead and have a look at how this video has panned out for either team. Dev, I'll let you run us through this one because you are the stat man.
Okay, so boils all the way down to Oregon. Now, this map is a map that Gladiators play a hell of a lot of the time. But Elevate actually do have a slightly higher win rate on it. This, in my opinion, is going to be a fantastic map to go to. I think both of the teams are really, really good on this map. Both of them play it a lot. And in fact, they played it against each other, 9 days ago in the Operation League as well. So, and believe it or not, that was actually an Elevate 7-3 win. That was a BO3 series. And if I'm not wrong, yeah, it was BO3. No, it was not a BO. It was a BO1.
There you go.
But yes, Elevate won it last time these two teams played it, but that does give some credence to Gladiators. They are a team who historically has been very good on the map. They've won it quite a few times in their national circuit. They also beat Wildcard on it. They had some really close games against Wolves, the #1 European team, at the Berlin Major on this very map, and they've also beaten Direwolves on it in the past. So this, to me, is a very tight map.
That is some pretty massive scalps and some pretty high achievements from Gaming Gladiators. But Mandy, surely we've got to talk about the fact that Elevate have just beaten them 7-3 on this map less than, 9 days ago, Dev? So this one for me, Mandy, I mean, if I look at this, Gaming Gladiators have to have something up their sleeve.
Recency bias would say that Elevate looked pretty good on this one, but honestly, if there's any battlefield for these two teams to go out on, it's definitely Oregon. Like, Elevate, they've got a crazy history on it internationally. At the Berlin Major, the final Playday, they played Oregon twice and actually lost both of their matches in that third Playday of the group stage. Whereas for Gaming Gladiators, when they showed us their Oregon inside of Berlin, those matchups against Wolves were some of the best that we've ever seen them perform. It was so close. Both of them went to OT. And I can only imagine that coming back into Stage 3, it's about that international experience. And it's about that maturity on the map that we're going to see in the server from both of these teams today. And I think it's going to come down to this really micro gameplay, the details in the strategy, any small thing, right? Because that's just how mature these two teams are on this map.
It's kind of crazy to think that we're talking about Gaming Gladiators being on the same maturity level, Dev, as someone like Elevate. But I think that there is no doubt that the results have shown it. And I think as well, you know, the heads of the team, or at least the heads that we speak to, Rix and Joe, both kind of reiterate that thought. Yeah,
definitely. Gladiators, I think they're quite a modest team. They're not puffing their chest up and say, yeah, we're better than Elevate, we'll beat them every day of the week. They respect their opponent, and you should. This is Elevate we're talking about. They have a fantastic history on this map. But Gladiators are a team where they're happy to be quiet achievers, and man, do they achieve, even if sometimes it is quiet. This is also a rematch of that Stage 1 game when these guys were called Renatus. They beat Elevate on this map. So it goes to show Elevate are also not perfect here, and Gladiators can play this map. If you want also a bit of fun historical fact, Oregon is the map where Onigiri broke the 6 Invitational kill record at SI 22 at the start of the year. So this does feel supercharged for me. Like you said, Mandy, such a great historical map for Elevate, but also had flaws. Such a great map with so many huge scalps, as you put it, Rob, for Gladiators. And yet, the last time they played Elevate on it, they did lose, and it was a dominant scoreline. A 7-3 is not a close game. I think expectations for this, most people would probably favor Gladiators, but it's so tight that it's hard to split it.
Ah, damn, you're almost gonna... I think you're only just seeing daylight between the gap, right? Like, it's absolutely crazy. Like, a door just slightly ajar is almost the difference here. Mandy, would you agree with Dev? Like, are you backing in Gaming Gladiators to take this one, considering, again, how much is on the line for both of these teams?
I think it depends. I'm going to bring mental game into this one because I think that's a big thing that's at stake here in APAC South. We see a lot of teams, when they get too ahead of themselves, they crumble under that pressure. We've seen Elevate do that plenty in 2021. We called them the major dodger curse, right? Because whatever it took on that one day that was crucial to cross the line, Elevate couldn't do it. They crumbled under that mental pressure. And for the Game Gladiators, these guys are a newer roster than Elevate. These guys haven't been in such a high stakes game like this one. And it's about whether they can keep that composure and close it out. For Elevate, they have that experience now. They have Laxing, who's just come into the roster and has made a huge difference on their mental performance and keeping them composed. And I can only imagine that that experience might go up against the Gaming Gladiators. They're really going to have to fight tooth and nail to hold themselves together in this matchup.
Dev, do you dare defend your comment about Gaming Gladiator?
Look, there's one thing that I will kind of reply about that Laxing point you made, Mandy. You were the first one to point out that Laxing had noted that where he thinks he can bring, and please correct me if I'm wrong, I'm kind of paraphrasing what you had said before. Laxing highlighted the area where he really thinks he can bring the most to Elevate is at those LAN events, because he's a player with so much experience. I mean, tell me, how many LANs has Laxing been to? Too many to count. He's the 6 Invitational champion way back from Xbox in 2017. So that is absolutely his area of expertise, understanding how to pace himself at those big events. Unfortunately, Elevate didn't make it to the major. So Laxing's now going to have to pivot and say, look, we can't make it to that major, so I have to make sure that I am helping these guys to be their best so they can qualify here in this online environment for the most important tournament of the year, which is 6 Invitational. You know, the major is a $500,000 US tournament. That is a huge prize pool. But 6 Invitational last year was $3 million. It is a complete other echelon. It's a world of its own. It is the World Championships. It's where Elevate had their first international appearance at the start of this year, after, as you said, being the major dodgers all year long, failing to make it in those crucial games. It was eventually their pure consistency and points across a whole online season that got them to making it to their first Invitational, and they need to show a shred of that consistency in tonight's game to make it to another one.
And Mandy, you know, we do talk about the prize pool, like Dev's mentioned, of majors and SIs. I think SI is probably a little bit of a different conversation, so I might stray away from that one and more so keep it to the upcoming major. But you know, where do you think that it's at for these teams? Do you think that they're more focused on that prize pool, or more focused on the experience and you know, being at those international competitions?
I think it's got to be about that experience. If you're a pro gamer and you play in this APAC South stage, that's your goal, right? One day I'm going to make a LAN. One day I'm going to be playing on the main stage, right? That's the whole point of it. When you go to the group stage at a major, you don't play in front of a crowd until you make it into those playoffs, right? And that's the goal for all of these APAC South teams, is to make it, prove that they're the best, and play in front of a crowd and live that hype and live that experience. And I think that for either one of these teams, Elevate, they want to relive it. They made it to the quarterfinals. They really wanted to make it to the semis for this one. That can't happen here. For the Gaming Gladiators, they didn't even make it into the playoffs. And that next step for improvement and for maturity is to be going into those playoffs and showing up against international teams.
Let's just talk about the hypothetical here for a second, Dev, because I know that we've got a little bit of time. We're just waiting on one more player to re-enter the lobby. But you know, when we're talking about Gaming Gladiators, we're talking about Fury, because we've talked a hell of a lot about Elevate this year. The conversation has primarily been about how good this team is. But who would you rather see at the international stage right now, Fury or Gaming Gladiators?
Ooh, that is a good question. That's a tough one, and I feel like I'm going to make some enemies either way I go. I think it would be sad for Fury to miss out, because they've never made it to that international stage before, with the exception of I9 back at Invitational on Elevate. And it would be such a sweet story to see his comeback and the first chance for all of the other guys. Particularly, I'm thinking people like Hollis, who have been on that roster forever and been playing in the APAC league at the APAC level forever. It would be so exciting for them to make it to that level. That said, I think Gladiators right now are the better team and would perform better at an international event. And so part of me, a large part of me, wants to say Gladiators should go to the major, because I think they will perform better internationally. They'll better represent APAC. It sounds harsh to say, because both of these teams deserve the opportunity. Both of these teams will have earned it, whichever one goes through. But my heart is kind of lying with Gladiators right now over Fury.
Since we're podcasting this, more representatives or better representatives, Mandy?
Ooh, that is a very tough question.
We don't really have the choice right now. Beggars can't be choosers, man.
Jeez Louise, you can't say that. What would you go, Mandy?
I would say better. I think that consistency in APAC South teams, especially APAC, I would say, is something that we need to elevate our region to that international level, where we're consistently beating international teams, where we go there and teams are getting worried that, oh gosh, okay, this team's going to qualify, and we know that they are, and they're amazing. That was what Elevate was the last major. We looked to them to be that savior for APAC, right? And that was the big hero story. It's the reason why the world fell in love with Elevate, because of their character and because of the way they played in the server. And I think that's exactly what this region needs.
You know, the region as a whole has, for the longest time, Dev, it's been, as Mandy's put it, so inconsistent. We've had heartbreak, we've had excitement, but we've never reached the pinnacle. Unlike Xenox, we've never reached the pinnacle. We've been one step away from it. There's been multiple times in APAC's history where we thought one team could be that team. If you're looking at APAC right now, what team are you looking to? That's
the thing is, I still feel like there's no question. I want to say Elevate, which is funny because they're not going to the major. They didn't get the spot, and yet my heart still says Elevate is the team in APAC that would have the best performance internationally. Isn't that crazy? Like, yeah, you mentioned that we've had a lot of huge moments. We've had Noah Rengo, Fnatic, and Damwon Kia all make top 4 at international events before. Obviously, Noah Rengo and Fnatic not really in the picture anymore. And even Damwon Kia has dropped off significantly. They're not going to the major either. So is it going to be Sandbox? Is it going to be Cyclops? Is it going to be Direwolves? Is it going to be Gladiators or Fury? Of those 5 teams that are/could be going to this upcoming major, I still kind of feel like Elevate is the team to represent APAC internationally. And that might change at this coming major. It might change at Six Invitational. I'm glad that we're getting a chance for, say, Direwolves to go back and give it another crack after Charlotte earlier this year. I'm glad that Game and Gladiators might get another crack. But my heart goes to Elevate once again, especially with how consistent they've been across the year. They've made it to 2 majors of the 3. This is their first major they missed out on. Unfortunately, they couldn't go to Charlotte. And Invitational as well. Yeah. But they've got to back it up. You know, if they win this game regulation, I'll back that in. I'll say that with confidence. Elevate, best team in APAC.
Well, it's been a hot minute on the desk. I very quickly want to say to the people who asked for a podcast, you got a podcast, so the percentages are going up for you. But you have been sticking around for a while. So let me put this simply. Elevate must win if they want to go to SI, and Game and Gladiators, they have to win if they want to go to the major. And we must go to 2 of the most prolific commentators I know. Xenox and Cuz. Can't even say it, right?
Yes, thank you very much, Rob. And we're obviously just going to keep with the theme, apparently, and just wear all black. It seems like a potential funeral could be on the cards. The question is, guys, who's it going to be for? Elevate or for Game and Gladiators? Of course, for one of them, it might just be a disaster night. For the other, it might just be pure elation.
Yeah, both teams, though, have their own faith in their own hands. A win here all but secures either team for an international opportunity soon. A loss, however, puts their chances into jeopardy. Big game, a big map. Looking forward to seeing this one play out.
Let's head to Oregon as we start the final hour for APAC South 2022. Elevate are searching for a position at the Six Invitational. And for the Gaming Gladiators, of course, a spot on the major well and truly within their grasp. It is Elevate on the attack first. Gaming Gladiators will be defending. We go and we head to see which team is going to be representing this region internationally.
There's been a lot of DMR bans here against Elevate, namely the Dokkaebi and Aruni combo. So we won't see that played out once more here. It's Ying off the board first. Particularly strong operator here for executes on Oregon, just due to the nature of the entries and the trade-out nature of a lot of the sites. Ying can open up opportunities, but she'll see no play at all in this head-to-head. We await Elevate's response, and in the current meta, a lot of different options that they could go with. And it's the standard Thatcher, so the one that I probably expected the least, but still an operator that has room in the meta.
Certainly does, especially for Games Wall and opening up a lot of these hatches as well. Meeting, for example, I think it's definitely one that you just maybe want to take off the board. Don't have to worry about it too much. They will, of course, be banning next in terms of defensive operators, but I think taking the Ying away from Elevate, I think is a really good move from Game and Gladiators, especially for that basement site. And Azami, really no surprises with that, has become really a staple ban on, I would say, almost every map, guys. Those keeper barriers just so strong in being able to hold those sort of choke areas, and it will be the Valkyrie also taken off the board, so denying some of that potential intel gathering. Pretty standard bans for what is going to be, hopefully, not a standard match between these two teams. One vying for SI, one vying for the major. There is a world in which, of course, they both can get what they want, but I think both will just want to win outright and secure their own position.
Yep, for sure. And then just to quickly round out that ban phase, the Aruna has been allowed through, so Elevate will be grinning Onigiri. Most importantly, at the end of that phase, he has been target banned on this map relentlessly on defense, so heading into that second half, as always, he'll be a man to watch.
And of course, as our wonderful desk, who had quite a lot of time to go over just about every sort of possible probability. We get it once again in this wonderful graphic, of course. 6 Invitational on the left for Elevate, and the upcoming major for the Gaming Gladiators on the right. Of course, guys, as you can see, overtime loss, regulation loss does still have pretty high probabilities. That does come down to the Fury versus Tide matchup straight after this game. So we'll know a little bit more about if that game's going to have some ramifications with it. For Elevate, though, regulation loss, basically, it seems like that might just about be SI over for them. There are some other things that can really actually hinder that even more so, but either way, we get underway. The last time, of course, these two teams did play on Oregon, it was Elevate that came away with a 7-3 victory in the Operation League. That was back in September. It was, of course, mentioned by our wonderful crew desk. But what I do kind of want to mention, guys, is the last time we saw Elevate on Oregon in APAC South, it was that 7-2 massively surprising defeat at the hands of Wildcard. So what have they learnt from that game? We'll have to wait and see.
Oh, okay. Hoven drops Sapper in the opening portion of the first round, punches the hatch, drops straight down, showing the power of that Aruni punch, and Sapper not offering any response. It's a great way to open up the round, and Hoven able to get back to site unscathed. And you're right, last time we saw Elevate on this map against Wildcard, yes, Wildcard, namely Bouncin, played incredibly well, but Elevate looked completely out of it.
Yeah.
And that's an example there where they're getting caught off guard by something where they probably shouldn't be. So we'll see if that trend continues, but it is a worrying sign to kick things off.
Pace, aggression, that was sort of the undoing of Elevate at the hands of Wildcard. They really brought their best that night, and yeah, 7-2. It was a total slaughter on both sides of the coin, defense, offense. Elevate just could not get anything to go their way. And the other thing that has somewhat become a bit of a trend for them in this stage, the reliance on Onigiri. Second-rated, best player in the league for APAC South. If he does not perform, the team just does not really stand up the way that they have in the past. Sapper, a bit quiet this stage. Mark and Mr. Punch, the dynamic duo, haven't quite been able to sort of hold things at bay when Onigiri has a quiet game. Getting to work though at the moment, Elevate, after obviously losing Sapper very early on. They have to just continue getting through this checklist. Minute and 7 seconds, running out of time. But a bit of a freezer push here from Mr. Punch might give them an avenue, of course, for this eventual attack.
Ideally, Elevate need to find a pick here. The U2 clear's been okay, but they need to find something to make the trade out late round doable. Mr. Punch is posted up in a decent position, a good cross through to the A-bomb side as DCH encloses from the main stairs alongside Mark. So it looks like a front plant's probably the play, unless Mark's going to rotate that late, but it doesn't look great here for Elevate at the moment. Mark will drone out the back push, but RP's uncontested over towards Pillar. So GG, in my opinion, in a much more favorable position at the moment.
Yeah, I think time is the biggest factor. I don't necessarily mind sort of the laundry, freezer, backstairs push coming from a 3-pronged attack. They do give up blue, and you can see the way that Hoven is now playing from that position. They own it. They know that they own it. And Mr. Punch losing that initial fray does not help out Freezer. Onigiri did get one pushing down backstairs, but dies at Pillar anyway. 2 for Tolji. And now 3 versus 2 after DCH gets one. Rick's getting pinched a little bit, but he survives, gets the kill. GG. With a perfect start here in the opening round. They got that opening kill, they get the opening round, and they do so looking really clean.
Yeah, always a GG round there. Would have taken a monumental error for them to not get that one across the line. Credit, of course, has to go to Hoven at the beginning. Got the easiest of opening kills, also the replay now just drops down, catches Sapper off guards. That already put Elevate at a huge detriment. And then the entry was quite late. Limited information as well. We saw some of the positions that GG were playing that simply weren't scouted at all by Elevate. Good example, Onigiri, rear stairs, got one, but then traded out from an unknown position. And that snowballed greatly in favor of the defense. So it's a solid start for GG. We go upstairs now, a site which can be very tricky to defend against if the attacking team's on the ball. So we'll have to see if Elevate can start mounting rounds in response now.
I think Elevate just have to be a little bit better at being proactive early on. You know, seeing Sapper die that easily, that early. It's not so much a fault of Sapper per se, but it more so just comes down to what Hoven was able to do. Being aggressive, roaming around, sweeping, going for those early kills. And that's what was Elevate's undoing in their loss to Wildcard, you know, it was a couple of weeks ago on this particular map. So they really do need to sort of work on that. Need to be aggressive, need to try and get in the face of GG, try and punish them for these kind of plays as well. Be the aggressive team, be the team that is really setting the tone, and then they can find victory here on Oregon. Otherwise, if they're just going to sit back play, basic Oregon, they're not going to be heading to SI.
Ooh. Mr. Punch, however, does find an early pick. Ape on the rear stairs. Hoven, though, responds. So Sapper falls twice early on in the round. And Elevate in such a good position. Now let that slide. I'd say it's still favoring Elevate slightly. We know how powerful Aruni can be. But still a loss nonetheless for Elevate. They would have been in a really strong position. And that Ash would have provided some useful utility, but not meant to be. Not entirely sure where that kill even came through, but yeah, disappointing again for Elevate.
Well, it's the irony that it's the two second-rated players on the respective teams, Sapper and Ape, that have started a little bit slow here. Both 0 and 2, both unable to sort of make their mark on the game. And in some ways, to me, you know you're going to get a good game from Onigiri, or at least partial enough that it's going to, be par for the course. You just need who's going to be that second person to stand up. If they can get that from Sapper, then Elevate suddenly get that edge. If Ape goes big, for Gaming Gladiators, then it could be all over. But Holvin off to a great start. He is their leader when it comes to the rating. He's got that opening 3 kill margin already to his name. Told you, getting aggressive, falls back. 90 seconds left, but again, good showing of aggressive value from Gaming Gladiators, making it difficult just to get basic things like Games Wall opened up. Minute and a half to go, and finally, they're able to at least open it up now.
3v4 on site, though, as Joe roams below. Could be on for a late flank, and Elevate will need to be mindful of that. Plenty of drones up, so they should have one established in lobby. Of course, we'll wait and see as Joe proceeds forward. Shots rain out, and he gets the kill onto Mr. Punch. Several times now, Elevate getting caught off guard by rat plays from GG. Going unpunished, he'll be able to probably get his way back to side, or at least apply pressure late in the round.
Yeah. Low health, not ideal, but you get the kill. You get rid of Mr. Punch. 40 seconds left, and pretty much at the kind of time, too, where Elevate is starting to feel primed about pushing in and trying to clear out the site. They don't have pit control, nothing in attic, so this is not looking good from Elevate. Very one-dimensional, all just trying to push in through Games Wall, and Tolji gets a free kill onto Mark and says, who else wants to push through? Tolji is down, Joe low on health. It's not an impossible round, but a little bit of help, and Onigiri does get 2, but eventually his life is traded to 1 versus 1. TCH low, Holvin with the shotgun, doesn't really need all of those pallets to land, just a few, and a few do land into the back. It's a second round for Gaming Gladiators. It's the dream start.
Really well done there by GG to be able to shut it out. Elevate, though, look timid. They are going for extremely conservative plays by their standards on these executes. And the main reason that round was so close is because they finally stepped up and said, you know what, let's make a play. Let's get aggressive, get in the faces of GG and back our ability to frag. Onigiri did a really good job there to keep his team in with a chance. Of course, not quite enough at the very end. Again, time was a mitigating factor for them, but I think we need to see a little bit more of that from Elevate when they're in these rough positions, to have somebody step up, make a play. That is the current meta of Siege at the moment. You need at least one person every single round to be making plays and showing that initiative, and we're not seeing that at the moment from Elevate. And remember, again, if we want to repeat the storyline of Elevate struggling on this map last time, how did Wildcard win that game? Bouncing, made plays, initiated plays, got in the face of his opponent. We're not seeing that from Elevate at all at the moment, albeit too late there from Onigiri.
It's a start, though, for the Gaming Gladiators, but we've seen teams before start well in this region, in this league, and then succumb pretty quickly thereafter. It's Oregon, after all. Defense still is sort of in its DNA. Obviously, with the attacker repick, things have opened up quite significantly. And yes, it's not the best of signs for Elevate, but it's only 2 rounds. I think what's more concerning for me, though, is the freedom of Hoven. 5 kills now in those opening 2 rounds. Not much trading back the other way. Those gas babes have had a big effect. He does get baited by the drone. He's still almost got the kill. That should never have even been allowed to happen, Guz.
Hoven is just a menace at the moment, causing so many issues across the map here at the moment for Elevate, who may even fall further into their shell. They're probably sensing that the early round threat here from GG is pretty potent, and perhaps they'll try and weather that storm a little bit more and ensure they do survive. And instead of responding with more aggression to try and shut it down, instead be a little bit more passive and let these roams play out naturally. We'll see some drains now over towards the west, so indicating a horizontal take here from Elevate, as opposed to going directly from Big Tower, for example. That does have its benefits, and GG aren't necessarily extending over there too heavily. So based on what we can see on the overhead, I think this is a pretty good call from Elevate at the moment. We'll have to see how they play it out.
I do wonder, is this a potential kitchen take, Guz, using the Glaz to really sort of lock down this long angle? And the way that Mark is opening up this wall, it does lead me to believe that could be the case. And this would actually sort of explain why Sapper has gone with the Glaz. In some ways, it can, if you can get that plant down, really mitigate the vert hold that is being established here by the Gaming Gladiators. But getting that plant down, easier said than done. Who's going to peek into the Glaz, though? Mr. Punch elects to go first from inside of security, but it's not a fight that you're going to win so easily. A minute left on the clock, though, but time, and they still haven't cleared above. I think GG is still in the better position.
Yeah, the big issue really is that hatch. They can't get in and get the plant down. Of course, it'll be denied from above. That's why DCH is contesting from double window, but he can't jump in because Rix is on the swing. So elevating a difficult position and trying to clear out these plays systematically will be tough. Of course, though, they can open the ball straight in towards site, get a play going that way, provided Mr. Punch can cover his position revealed before. And again, it just feels like such a 50-50 round for the attack.
Have to win that first fight. They can't. They lose 2 players. It was something a little bit different, Guz. A kind of strategy that we don't really see too often. It's not the norm. And obviously, though, for these kind of matches, this is when you want to bring out those kind of secret plays, but it hasn't worked out whatsoever. It is a horrible start for Elevate and their chances of going to the 6th Invitational, but it is a dream start for the Gaming Gladiators. 3 rounds to the good right now. Is there going to be a tactical response from Elevate? Have they seen enough? Well, right now, the answer looks to be no. Heading back down to basement. They gave it a crack. They tried something different rather than going for that stock standard Oregon clearing of the vert and then playing in, or they didn't even obviously go for the meeting wall either. They did not play into that addict control. They didn't go for any of that. Tried something a little bit different, and boy, did it backfire.
Great signs for GG. That's the positive we can take away from this game at the moment. And often in positions like this, we'd still be giving some benefit of the doubt to Elevate. Oh, they might be able to still salvage the half. Yeah, it probably isn't too bad at the moment, but the nature in which these rounds are playing out very heavily in favor of GG, and not too many redeeming factors at the moment. For the Thai lads, they are struggling at the moment and not looking themselves at all on a map which historically they have flourished on. Back down to basement we go, though, and an opportunity for salvation. Last time we saw Elevate lose an early pick. That was Sapper inside of Garage. It snowballed from there. Tology on the roam, Hoven as well. And we'll see just how much of an effect this presence outside of the objective will have.
Yeah, I mean, they've been the better team. Right now, Elevate have not been able to play into these cheeky little plays. Small tower position from Tolji was going to be droned out had he held that position, and will avoid the drone of Mr. Punch. But will obviously give up that position as well. I mean, the drone usage from Elevate has been thereabouts so far in this match. They have been utilizing them pretty well. They're just not necessarily being able to play off of the intel that they are gathering. Slow, it has been their approach. They're leaving their time bank really dry going in towards those final pushes. I mean, nothing that they've done so far has looked clean or good. They need a massive change around here if they're going to head to SI.
Again, these roamers, unpunished, and I don't even know if Elevate are aware of their position. Hoven's actually going to make an impromptu rotate over towards Addict and could contest DCH, who's going to have absolutely no idea what's about to hit him unless he heard the drop.
No.
I don't think he did.
He did run straight by them, though. Talk about timing. Had he just been a little bit slower in that cross, he would have been caught, but no. But what it is, those 2 players just roaming around the map for free. Rix does die to Sapper. Elevate don't know it, but Sight is certainly vulnerable right now. It may just force this roam from GG to come to a foregone conclusion. They get the kill onto Mr. Punch. He wants more. Hoven looking for one as well. Pot main stairs. DCH does get the kill onto APAC. And maybe just a little hint of greed setting in here for Gaming Gladiators. Could be their downfall. And Hoven, the timing. Easy kill, top white for DCH, and suddenly Elevate do have a grasp on this round.
Just taking it a step too far, the timing not working out there for GG. and Elevate collecting themselves, being able to find those picks and now set themselves up in the 4 versus 2. Still have to be mindful of Joe inside of Freeze with the 1.5x. Could pose a threat, but scouted out. He scatters over towards Pillar and being watched from the stairs.
Ooh.
Surely won't win this fight, but does land some damage. 30 seconds left.
Tell you what, 30 seconds left on Agiri and Sapper are very low. Same with DCH, somewhat winnable for GG, but they lose Joe instantly. Sapper being the one that gets that kill. Nitrocell out from Tolji. 6 Asphal gets rid of Sapper, but shot in the back by Onigiri. A much needed round win from Elevate. Just cools down those nerves a little bit. The heart is pumping, the adrenaline racing through their veins, but they get one that they desperately needed. Had they gone down 4-0, it would have been such a long way back, but 2 rounds to go in the half, and I think even a 3-3 scoreline still would be not that bad here on Oregon. So Elevate's still in a position now with that round win where they can salvage this half.
Certainly a high risk, high reward play there for GG, and to their credit, I think for the most part, they weren't unnoticed. We saw Elevate up above, running straight past where that flank was coming from, so I really don't think they had any idea that it was there until those frags did start to eventually come through over towards Kitchen, for example, and then they gathered themselves up, they found those picks, they hunted down the remaining Roamer, and Elevate found themselves in an advantageous position for the first time, really, in this match for longer than a second. So they did well, shut them down, converted the round, and will now have some confidence, which I think was really lacking at the beginning of this match. And the reattempt here from GG, also interesting. Again, they won the first 3 rounds. All those sites have now unlocked on the rotation outside of the last one. So very interesting that they'll repeat, but perhaps they'll play a little bit more conservative themselves and trust themselves in being able to win out the late round trade as opposed to going for the flank.
I mean, how many times do we see it though, guys, where a team is feeling so confident that they basically throw a round away in sheer overconfidence, and then they reel it back a little bit and just go back to dominating. So that's where now it's that next step now for Elevate. Okay, GG came at you, very aggressive. They got to 3 rounds, 3 from 3. Obviously, they went for an even more aggressive round. Okay, backfired. They'll obviously fall back. You can see it already. A lot more pressure on site. Hoven will just sort of hang around backstairs, fire off a few shots. He's not going to go for a full map roam like we saw sort of in the last round. So this is where Elevate have to go back to breaking down this defense, going back to those first 3 rounds. They need to have taken some kind of confidence from that round prior, that they can hit their shots, that they can clear out these positions. Hoven might just fall right off of backstairs completely and play off of Pillar. Elevate's got to be good with their time. Only 4 drones left though, so drone economy in this round, a little bit worse than the rounds prior.
I guess the saving grace of that is there are no roamers, so arguably not as much of a factor, and they should have a good feel as to where the players on side are playing as they sort of poke around in the early phase of this round. Good lineup to deal with the utility, as Mr. Punch actually gets a kill off the back of the Rotero. So good distraction. And that's Hoven shut down, the most dangerous man on the team at the moment.
I wonder though, is he aware of APAC's position? A little bit of an off angle, holding out in that pillar position, but a little bit off of it, right? Just more so over towards blue in that corner. And you got Tolji up close too, so a lot of presence here defensively from Gaming Gladiators, and now into Harry Potter as well. I mean, this is a huge amount of pressure, and Onigiri needs to get this information with those Roteros, and I think he has been able to at the very least for Mr. Punch. He knows one's close now. Minute left, time is a factor. More than this. Oh, what's the push? A little bit random from Tolji. Got aggressive, maybe just heard some intel that gave him some wrong information. Ape's still there, but he does get droned out. I mean, this is opening up sights significantly for Elevate, and they're starting to congregate over towards blue. Mr. Punch, there's one close. He doesn't see it. Ape, the 3rd time is the charm for GG.
Is it too little too late though? Still salvageable, but Elevate with a strong advantage with an extra man up. Ape's position as well will be under pressure soon. Let's see if he can hold out.
Nah, they know he's there though. That's the one instance about where if you get that kill backstairs, you probably want to rotate off of that position. The trades go out. Elevate have the numbers. They have the position. GG, maybe just sort of over-helping at that pillar position, at the backstairs position, and it has cost them big time. Rix plays off of the ping well. That's diffused it down. 14 seconds left. Knows that one is inside of Freezer, who will very likely want to peek out of this, but he knows that time is a factor. Diffuser will go down. Sapper's got to stick it. Rix almost getting that kill. Does get that kill. Sapper gets the kill back the other way with so little time.
A bold decision to get off the plant.
Had he not got that kill, they would have lost the round.
The mirror gets around the corner. It would have been very interesting. I think there are only a couple of seconds left. may not have been able to find her in time, but nonetheless, Sapper does clutch up. Elevate now with 2 rounds, so they're probably at the pass mark. Very surprising turn of events. Things starting to look better now for Elevate. Certainly some light at the tunnel now after a very, very poor start. Go up above for the final defensive effort here for GG, who perhaps now themselves, the pressure starting to weigh on their shoulders. So close to the major. Keeping in mind, if they win this game, no matter if it's in regulation or overtime, they go forward, they proceed. A loss, though, takes fate out of their hands.
Obviously, in years gone by, we would be sitting back and, yeah, saying 2 is probably par for the course. I do wonder, though, in the current era, is 3 probably what is more desired here? I generally think that this is going to be a rehost if we're seeing these wonderful, beautiful faces on the, of course, the eve of this very last round of the half. So 2-3 scoreline does, and I guess in some ways I'll turn my hypothetical question into a real question here. Is a 2-4 half good enough these days? Should 3-3 be more what Elevate is aiming for to close out the half?
Personally, I'm also looking at the way in which Elevate are playing, not just the score in isolation. I think the score is definitely doable. I think 2 rounds is enough of a buffer, but I'm also really honing in on probably the early round of all things, where Elevate did look pretty lackluster in the rounds that they did lose early on and then turned it around. If we see them snowball that positive momentum onto their defense, right, and they play some of the heavy roams that GG did and find picks early, then they'll be in a great position. But if they find themselves back in their shell in that second half, then we could see a repeat where GG are able to mount rounds on their attack and get early picks on the entry. So the game is very much on a knife's edge at the moment, and picking the 2 apart is becoming increasingly difficult. I did genuinely feel early on that GG were going to run away with it, but simply not the case. Elevate have done a great job to tighten the ship and turn it around a little bit, and it's up now, I think, for GG to try and respond to close out the half in a confident fashion.
Is that enough of a sort of good sign for you, though, for Elevate, that they have been able to sort of, yeah, as you said, stem the bleeding a little bit here after losing the opening 3 rounds? There's a bit of contrast, though. The last time, of course, we saw Elevate, they started really well against Direwolves. They won the opening 3 rounds, and then it turned the way of the Direwolves from then after. I wonder if Elevate now is on the other side of it.
Well, I mean, I'm also was looking at the parallels, right, between this game and the wildcard affair, where Elevate just got a bad start and it just continually got worse from there. Whereas on this occasion, it feels like they are starting to turn it around. So I think we can draw some conclusions that that was an off day for Elevate, and perhaps not really reflective of the sort of form that they are in. They're going toe-to-toe with GG, who are an extremely strong team at the moment. Again, keeping in mind that they're fighting for the major, their recent forms being great. Elevate not in that position, but still fighting for SI. So going in, both teams rather, for me, had a very, very even chance of being able to win this game. It comes down to, I guess, many games in APAC South in best of 1 formats where it's the team on the day that who's performing better, who's switched on, who can mount rounds and early pressure that usually converts.
Team on the day for a prize as big as a major, or a prize, well, really no bigger than a spot at the 6 Invitational. Who for you is probably more deserving for the respective prize, I guess, these teams are playing for, guys? So not so much on the day, if you were to take today out of the equation and look at maybe the year, the calendar year as a whole for APAC South, did Elevate really deserve that SI over, say, GG deserving the major? I think, for me, I think GG probably deserved the major a little bit more. Elevate have not quite been as consistent this year.
Oh, it's such a tough question. I think I'm a pretty firm believer that Elevate is still the best team in the region. Perhaps, though, that's giving a little bit of bias towards probably their international performances, where they have outshone a lot of their APAC counterparts. But it's almost like comparing apples and oranges, right? The teams are fighting for 2 completely different things. Elevate are trying to still crack into the top 16 for the global standings, so competing against every team around the world, really, for that privilege. And then GG, of course, fighting domestically for their opportunity at the major, their second appearance of the year. So I think you can make a valid argument that either team really deserves to take home their respective prize at the end of the day. It's so difficult, again, to split the 2. GG have shown such great improvement over the last 12 months. Very much an outside chance heading into the year, but they have proved everyone wrong that they are a serious team in the region, and I think this would be a real cherry on top if they're able to win this game, completely secure their position and not leave it up to the results later tonight.
Here's a little bit of sort of foreboding here in that all the way back March 17, 2022, Playday 1 for APAC South Stage 1. It was Renatus versus Elevate, Guz. So little Xenox fun fact for you. And it was on Clubhouse, of course, a map we don't see too often. So I think Oregon's probably the closest thing to that. And it was a 7-5 victory for Renatus. And boy, didn't that really sort of set the tone for a team that made their way through promo relegations for APAC South at the end of 2021. And there probably was not, say, a huge amount of expectations. And they took down Elevate Playday 1. And it really said about a lot about that team. Now, of course, they didn't make the playoffs. In Stage 1, missed out, but they had 8 points. They picked up 3 wins overall, and boy, they've done a good job of sort of just continuing on from that. Second, of course, in Stage 2, and looking to do so once again here in Stage 3.
Yeah, it's been a really great rise for this roster, and I think really probably embodies that sort of typical APAC storyline, a team that sort of comes out of nowhere and is able to produce results. And I think the next step for them is obviously to really acclimatize themselves with the international standard of play and the international meta. They got their opportunity in the previous major, didn't really have much of an impact, but that's expected for any team's first appearance at an international event, never mind APAC, who tend to be a little bit behind the rest of the competition naturally. So I guess the hopes and the goals for this team and their fans is to go overseas again for the 3rd major of the year, really actually have a bit more of an impact, try to fight their way out of the group stage. And beyond that as well, keep in mind that they'll still have their sights set on SI through the open quals as well. So we can't rule them out from that. And especially if Elevate do not make it to SI off the back of tonight, there's only going to be a maximum of 1 team from this league at SI. And it may not be any teams if an APAC North roster through the open quals makes it and Elevate do not. So yeah, a lot to still unfold for the rest of the year, and yeah, it's going to be a very, very exciting conclusion to the year.
Obviously, for Elevate guys, you know, they had that dream run in the Stage 1 playoffs where they got knocked down in the upper bracket by Cyclops and had to beat 5 teams to win the Stage 1 playoffs. They did that, all best of 3s as well. After winning, of course, Stage 1, finishing first for APAC South. They repeated that again in Stage 2, as we know. Of course, they could not attend the Charlotte Major and really probably put themselves on the map internationally in Berlin. But Stage 3, for probably, I would say, and maybe correct me if I'm wrong, the first time probably in the APAC South era, they've looked the most vulnerable. And it's in some ways difficult as to say how are they looking this vulnerable. They started so strong for the stage, 7-1 win over the Knights, 7-4 victory over Tide, and then they lose to Fury in that sort of battle of ties and the coming of age for Fury, and it all just sort of fell apart from then onwards.
Yeah, well, from my view, it's primarily 2 things. One, the rest of the competition's really stepped it up in Stage 3. I don't think Elevate has necessarily regressed all that much, at least not until I mentioned my second point, which is influencing their performance. But the rest of the league has risen the standard of play, and Elevate at times have struggled to match it. And that does flow into my second point, which is Sapper, who left the team unexpectedly for a short period. I think it was meant to be a little bit longer, but fortunately it is now back. But I think we're still seeing maybe some remnants of that change causing some disturbance for the team. There's been a couple of times, and I mean even today, where it just hasn't quite been in sync with the rest of the team, and there's been some mistakes made. Obviously, don't want to read too much into that, but
good observation. I like that. You didn't steal that from anyone, did you?
No.
No.
Come on, mate. I only make original points here. What do you want about? I didn't steal.
For those, of course, wondering maybe what's going on, this is a rehost that turned into another issue, and so that's why it's just extended. Current scoreline, 2-3 in favor of GG on Oregon. Gaming Gladiators, of course, defending. And lo and behold, as I sort of went back into talking about what is currently taking place, we are back into the game. Kids Norms for the final round of the half. And for those, of course, it was a bit of a longer rehost. Gaming Gladiators did win the first 3 rounds, and they looked very good doing so. Elevate looked all over the shop. But round 4, was a bit of a throw from Gaming Gladiators. Went for an aggressive roam, did not work. Elevate punished them, and in the round gone prior, which feels like a lifetime ago, Elevate just a little bit better in attacking that laundry supply site. And that is where we are at. 2-3. Heading back up to Kids Dorms for the final round of the half, which I argue, I think 3-3 is probably more what Elevate will be seeking, but 2-4 wouldn't be the end of the world. So let's see how it does sort of transpire here.
A big build-up to a big round in the context of both of these teams' international opportunities and goals. Elevate fighting for their spot at SI, GG for the major. Told you with a roam over towards Small Tower, and if you are just tuning in, it's this pressure off-site that GG have been applying that Elevate struggled to rise to, but in the last couple of rounds have been able to combat. See the Twitch in play as well, great in clearing util, scouting ahead. Mr. Punch, the one to set foot first. Roteros as well to clear utility. Elevate with so many tools available to facilitate these plays down below, and I think Mr. Punch is in a great position to have an impact.
And remembering, of course, in the really early stages of this first half, Gaming Gladiators, the more aggressive team, the ones looking to more sort of make those plays. I do wonder if they sort of just pulled it back a little bit, looking to contain themselves a bit more on site, not give away those early deaths that did sort of transpire in the last 2 rounds. But that might just be their undoing in some ways, especially with Mr. Punch now on the Nook, pushing his way, dining potentially into kitchen, getting a little bit of vertical superiority established down below. And Onigiri getting to work on this game's wall. Oh, and Onigiri, though, has run straight into the sidelines of Rix. That's not like him all that often, but was traded at least in the sense that APAC did go down at the exact same moment in time. Sappa, hello. A little bit slow in the first half, but maybe in the last round of this half, he decides to get going. Might just be the savior that Elevate desperately need. 4 versus 3, minute 15, and Hoven's pushed all the way back to site.
Scorelines, or at least the kills rather, have reset, but keep in mind Hoven has been on a bit of a heater in this match so far. He still stands, could still have an impact in this round. Mr. Punch, though, could as well. He's being droned out below kitchen by DCH. He has 2 grenades in the pocket. Hoven's under threat from being naded from below. Other players as well need to try and seek shelter, try and dodge this bombardment. See if the first lands. Does a little bit, but Hoven drops. Sound may have been masked. Mr. Punch did not turn around, and Hoven's in a position to potentially make a round-winning play if he gets this kill and can get back up above.
30 seconds left. Mr. Punch has to win. This is one more, though. Keep firing. He does not. Told you with a good push from White Stairs. Joe elsewhere getting the kill onto the mark. Still on site. Told you, got another one. It's just all falling apart for Elevate at the final hurdle. Sappa, he started with 2. He's going to need to end with another 2. Got the downer to Tolji. Knows there's one on site, but he doesn't know where he is. No intel, no info. Joe gets the kill. Gaming Gladiators get to 4 rounds on this defensive half of Oregon and just edge a bit closer to that spot at the major.
A scrappy end to the half. GG stacking down below, making a statement. Turning things around, and scoreline 2-4. Now we see if the dynamic takes a big shift here in the second half. What can Elevate produce? I think the ball's really in their court now. They're the ones that need to bring themselves back into this game. GG stabilized by winning that round. They'll be feeling pretty confident, especially after that prolonged break. They probably won't feel the need now to take their tactical for a while as well, so they're in a decent spot. Elevate, though, early round again, it haunts them. We'll see whether or not they can improve it on the defense.
Yeah, the Onigiri swing out through Game's wall. It's a little bit perplexing that early on in the piece. You can't just necessarily fold as a team when your star player goes down, and in some ways, Elevate didn't. And credit to Sappa. A very, very slow start in this match, but has been able to have an impact in the last couple of rounds and start to make his presence known. Well, this is pretty much his bread and butter, though. The Sappa stairs in Freezer on that smoke. Probably the hardest player to push through on Oregon. And I do wonder if Gaming Gladiators might just neglect this position, because did they just forfeit it? Allow Sappa to just wait out his days at Freezer stairs with no one to push through.
Unless they have a really good way of clearing it, I just wouldn't even bother. We know that Sapper loves this spot, and we've seen time and time again various teams try to crack open that setup, and it has a very low strike rate. So if I am GG, and if I've done my homework properly, I know that's a dangerous spot that you either have a really thorough plan on clearing, or you just completely avoid it. And I think GG will probably take the latter option, especially after Rick drones it. He'll just confirm to the team that it is being held. Told you as well, sets up a drone just to watch for the re-aggression. Elsewhere, drones actually deep in sight. Elevate really nowhere to be seen. So those drones now actually will be tucked away in the objective, and that is going to provide a wealth of information later on in the round.
Well, the one thing that Elevate looked like they're setting up for, though, is presence up above, especially in through Attic, although I'm not so sure, actually, never mind. They've all just seemingly run back down together, maybe wanting to just make the rotational hole in anticipation of GG droning it and saying, oh, someone's roaming above. Maybe it's a mind game, and that's about it, guys.
Yeah, probably the player. I don't think at this point in time it's wise for Elevate to invest in the roam. Unless, of course, those drones in sight feed some really good information, and it does prove costly. Of course, we'll have to wait and see until the execute comes through. Rick still seems determined to push Freezer at the moment. At least he's guarding it with that diffuser. Again, probably not the play. I think GG will shape up for a laundry push, but...
Well, more so in my mind, Sapper can sometimes get a little bit over-aggressive at that Freezer Stairs position. He does like to peek it and swing it. Such as that. Still a very difficult play to push, and he's going for it. This is exactly what I think GG were waiting for. They don't capture him. Did get the down onto Joe. And obviously Sapper feeling a bit of that pressure, and he does let out a gas babe. Obviously, he can be pinched in this position. It is why it is a difficult position to hold. He is the best at it. But time a factor as well. 30 seconds left, and they're just going to have to go for it. Sapper, he gets another one. They try and push through his position, but they shall not pass through Sapper's stairs. He has done the majority of the damage, but not enough maybe. 3 versus 3. Gladiators low on health. TCH watching. No other position on the site has been really attacked at all. It was just a full Freezer push. And Sapper did enough. You do have to wonder what the Gladiators were thinking there.
Peculiar. As we said during the round, the strike rate for attackers getting through that hold from Sapper, it's critically low. We've seen little innovation on teams trying to clear that spot. And GG stun locked during that round. In more ways than one, literally and figuratively. Stuck standing there, util in hands. The timing not quite there. Once Sapper eventually was flashed out, it was messy. But Sapper made them work for it. Credit to him. And these are the kinds of plays and kinds of players that we expect from Elevate. To step up in the moment and really help boost the team's morale, momentum. And it's a good way to kick off the second half.
Unfortunately, though, to be the bearer of bad news, guys, of course, now laundry supply locked away for a little bit of time. And they need to find an answer elsewhere, because so far, Elevate have not been able to do so. All 3 of their rounds have been laundry supply. Starting to dominate said site, but as is always the case, Kids Dorms, though, is 2-0 in the favor of Gaming Gladiators. So this is now where Elevate really have to turn their attention to fixing up this site. Getting some round wins here. It's their only way of getting to 7 round wins and potentially getting to the 6 Invitational.
Interesting repick here from GG for the 8th round 0. We'll see some playtime. The Argus launcher 4 cameras can be scattered in and around the map. Nooks and crannies to find information. Really help complement the info gathered from drones, which are already in somewhat of a limited supply, just 6 remaining. Outside of that is secondary hard breach as well. Entry elsewhere over towards the top of Big Tower. Arpe on the Nook. We'll just sit perched up on the beam for the moment. Decent groundwork from GG, and Elevate not too eager to contest it very aggressively. Mr. Punch, I don't mind his presence down below. He's collecting some drones, a bit of attention, but outside of that, very safe on site.
The tendency, though, in this match for Gaming Gladiators to find that opening kill has been strong. The Elevate have it within themselves to be the ones to go for these kind of peaks, to try and find that opening kill that they probably desperately need. Game's wall being opened up. Mr. Punch still lurking down below. Has he been droned out? I don't believe so, and could be a factor late round. Presence over towards Addict though. I like this though from GG. So Games and Addict. DCH though gets the opening kill. Down below, the roam has been successful. And they've still got Mr. Punch as well as sort of like an ace up the sleeve. But they lose Sapper. Presumably on site, it was through APAC. 4 versus 4. In my mind, it has to come down to Mr. Punch going for a big play here late in the round.
I think as well that pit position from Elevate's looking strong. Mark still has the util, I think, to play off. Actually, no, maybe that shield was taken care of, so may not be the case.
He's on the move.
No, it is still standing, so he's all right.
Here he
In that
comes.
position strong, and yeah, here's the flank.
How many can he get, if any, potentially? Has he already been maybe spotted out? Has made his way in towards Armory, but they're losing players on site. It has at least forced back Holvin and Tolji for the time being. Onigiri on the DMR does get Ape. So suddenly on-site presence for Gaming Gladiators, guys, it's completely evaporated.
20 seconds. Oh, this is not going to end well for Mr. Punch unless he knows. He doesn't. Oh my goodness, Hoven does get the kill. Rix enters, he falls. Now Hoven in the 1 versus 2 has been good so far, but Onigiri with the DMR. That's why you ban Aruni. Elevate win the round.
Oh. Mind games everywhere. And even though Mr. Punch did die in that position of Armory, guys, he had already done his job. He forced those 2 players back towards balcony. I think they must have heard him or saw him. They got the information that he was inside of Armory. So what do? They fall off the objective entirely. And then suddenly there's not that much time on said objective anyway. And as soon as Elevate get 1-2 kills on site, suddenly on site it's now defended. And then not only that, you get the kill into Mr. Punch, and it's like, hey, they're just going to be coming from hallway anyway. We know where they're coming from. Suddenly, the attack from Gaming Gladiators just looked a little bit one-dimensional at the end because of the way that Elevate set themselves up. They got a big opening kill courtesy of TCH. Mr. Punch at least making plays. He didn't get a kill. He didn't get a stat for it, but he was a big, big factor as to why they won that round. And of course, Onigiri on site hits his shots with the DMR. No surprise there. It's 4-4. It is a massive turnaround from Elevate. They have won 4 of the last 5 rounds. And they must be feeling hopeful once again that they can go to the 6th Invitational.
5 seconds remaining. Attacker's objective is to locate a bomb and defuse it.
The Fury players, the Fury fans watching this game very intently, cheering on their Thai counterparts in Elevate, keeping in mind that if GG do not win this game, if Elevate pull off a remarkable turnaround, Fury could jump them in the standings and go to the major themselves. So big implications still for other teams outside of the 2-1 screen now. As I said, they will be cheering on Elevate fiercely. Over to meeting for the 9th round. GG shaping up for a tower take. Pretty on meta and on brand for the APAC South League, and not being overly contested by Elevate at the moment. They'll instead wait for the breach to be opened, contest it that way. Control up above, seated. The hatch reinforced. The Kaid having an impact on the main wall and causing that breach to be a little bit more awkward than GG probably envisioned.
And looking at that lineup with the Ossa as well, I'm envisioning myself that this is going to be a pretty standard sort of meeting plant. Obviously, they've opened up that wall. They're looking to try and get those talent shields down. But saying that, the positioning of Tolji at the moment now leads me to believe that will not be the case. And I wonder if this is another mind game. So they're actually now turning their attention and focus over towards Kitchen, some way similar to what we saw from Elevate, but a completely different setup. Not the Glads, but the Ossa instead. They fake meeting and potentially try and send defenders over towards meeting instead. Now, looking to attack a vulnerable Kitchen. Hello? The question is, though, do they still need to clear above?
Yeah, that's exactly my point. DCH is still above, holding strong. He shouldn't have too many issues with the DMR. Mr. Punch as well, holding security. So there's key positions that still need to be dealt with by GG. And this is much like on Elevate's attack, where we saw the attacking team struggle in clearing out these spots and having a free path in towards the plant. So GG now find themselves stalled, at least temporarily. And I think Elevate have been given enough of an indication that this rotation is being committed to by Gaming Gladiators. It is a tense moment in the round.
They are at least showing presence up above. That's a massive kill from Ape through big window above. Then they get the kill onto Onigiri. This is exactly what you need to do to win the round. Mark falls too. Ape gets a double above. Oh, that will surely be a round win now for the Gaming Gladiators. Barring a miracle, Mr. Punch does get one. But I don't think one will be enough. Where's Sapper? Nitrocell kill onto a very low health Ape. Over towards main entrance. Joe wins that fight, but Sapper should be able to get the trade on a very low HP, Joe. It is now a 1 versus 2. Shields on both sides of Kitchen here. The talent shield, of course, on one side means Sapper has to kind of go quickly. You've got to focus on sight. You cannot let them play off of that shield. And suddenly now it's just sort of run away and hide moment here. Sapper pushing all the way into showers, knowing Rix is close. But is he close enough? And does he know where to check the angles? I don't think he does. This should be a round win for GG. Unfortunately for Sapper.
Droned out as well. Sapper in a rough position, time dwindling.
Yeah, no time.
It was a great execute from GG, flushing out key positions. Ape, the man of the hour, helped open up above. The team steamrolled from there. Sapper tries his best, but there's nothing he can do. The damage already done. GG respond.
Yeah, kind of one of those sites where once that plant is down, you are not going to be able to retake it unless it's a 1v1 and you happen to clutch up big. That was always going to be Cayman's round as soon as that plant got down and it was executed perfectly. Massive, massive round win for the Gaming Gladiators. They needed that. It was a bit of a run from Elevate. 4 of the last 5 rounds was going their way. But GG get to 5 because they get a bit closer and, well, they're kind of on that penultimate round now where they can get to 6, which would force out 1 point already guaranteed and Elevate not being able to get 3. So a tactical timeout called from Elevate. They probably sense that they need to win the next 3 rounds straight.
This is where Laxing earns his money, earns his keep. As much pressure on his shoulders as the other 5 members of the team to tighten up now. That's going to be a tricky round to rebound from. See if they can do it.
I posed you this question though. Do you go laundry supply straight away, knowing it's probably your more favored site, or do you force up a Dorm's kitchen a little bit early? Well, there's the answer, I guess.
I don't think you don't have the luxury, right, at this point in time. You can't take that risk. You cannot allow Game of Gladiators to get that match point. It's simply too much of a risk. And if Elevate can win this round out, again, pretty convincingly on this site, then balls in their court really to snatch match point back. So, oh, it's a big round. Big round.
Certainly is. Now, we do, of course, and, well, the wonderful crew on the desk did go through all of the implications and all the probabilities in terms of what overtime would potentially mean for Elevate, guys. It's still pretty good. Even an overtime loss will probably give them enough potentially to go to the 6 Invitational. The only thing barring that would be a Knights win against the Direwolves, which is probably not likely. But in saying that, an Elevate regulation loss could just about all but secure them not going to SI. So they are they're on the ropes here. But have they got a counterpunch still left in them? Obviously, Laundry Supply, they've not lost it so far, except I think once, the opening round of this map. Outside of that, though, they've got a little bit of a streak here. They need to go again. They need to win this. Force 5-5.
In Game and Gladiators produced something here on a site which has troubled them in this match. Mr. Punch again lurking around, hunting down drones, chewing away at time. It's been one of his real strengths in this match so far, and he'll team up with Mark, DCH as well up above. So this is slightly more aggressive than we've seen from Elevate previously. That's not completely out of the realm of realistic aggression that we would see on this map. It's not too far gone. It's just enough to apply the heat here. Enough to find drones and then have a buffer to fall back towards site. And GG doing their best to try and catch one of these players off guard. Sapper.
He's pinned.
He can't die here. Sapper cannot die, otherwise it unlocks the staircase that GG struggled to clear. Hoven does fall off the angle and Sapper survives.
Yeah, the only thing that saved him there is the fact that Hoven just couldn't shoot forever, so at some point he had to reload. Did obviously force out a gas babe early as well. Just got himself into a bit of a pickle, but he does get himself out of it as well. So fair play, Sapper. Minute and a half remaining, and there goes DCH. As the punch looking to try and get a kill back at the same time, is unable to do so and falls away. Suddenly, Elevate's chances starting to fall away potentially as well. It may just rest on Mark in an off-meta position inside of security. He now forces himself out. I think he wants to drop down as well. Maybe called by the rest of his team in doing so. They've only got 4 players. Sapper's low health. He can't play stairs now. Freeze the stairs, that is, Guz. He's too vulnerable. There's a minute left. He just has to play a position on site and hope for the best, but this is the best chance that the Gladiators can bring in to win this round and to put themselves on match point, major point from here. They just have to execute the drop. They just have to execute on site.
It's looking so good for GG at the moment. They've flushed out Elevate from these key positions. They're left stranded to try and salvage something. Sapper could have an impact, but only one gas babe and limited health. Mark potentially in a play-making spot as well. GG just need to band together, make sure the timing is on point. They should be able to trade this out and win the round.
20 seconds though, it's not a whole lot of time, but they've got the numbers, and yeah, as you said, they can trade their way to victory. Joe and Ape looking to drop that meeting hatch. Nitrocell did go out. Mr. Punch survives the pillar, but not for long. 3 versus 3. Sapper still low, of course, remember, so he is vulnerable, but a big kill from Onigiri before he too does get traded. Now it's technically a 1 versus 2, and it is the 2 that win out for Elevate. Somehow, from a 4 versus 5, they win the execute on site. They keep their hopes of SI alive as well with it. Oh, what a big round win for Elevate. It's 5-5, and they starve off that match point for GG.
Elevate digging deep, showing that they are kings of the basement bomb site. In a round that did not look good for them at all. Their positions unfavorable, but they persist. They somehow make it work, and GG
Attackers need to locate and defuse
forfeit their opportunity to claim that match point. The positive is, though, Elevate have struggled on every other objective, and now we'll have to see if they have what it takes with the pressure at the absolute highest it has been so far.
And a reminder for any potential new viewers, we do have Fury versus Tide as our next match straight after this. If Elevate win this game, Fury will then have destiny in their hands. They will have to beat Tide, and they then can go to the major. So they're watching on right now. I know probably the whole Fury crew is watching and cheering very much as Elevate fans would. And to give their team a chance of taking down Tide and going to a major, they need Elevate to be winning this.
Attackers are heading out.
Round 11. 5-5 scoreline. Probably one of my more favorite scenarios in Siege.
Oh, no.
And Onigiri on the DMR of the Aruni. Oh, it could backfire so badly, or it could be so great.
He saw 2 players.
As he saw 2, they both were not really in his line of sight for very long. He waits patiently, though, and he expects maybe someone to come back around. I don't think they will. Maybe they will. He got to win it, and he does. Onigiri, of course. The Little Master once again steps up for Elevate when they need him the most. 8-3 scoreline since the rehost. Get through to Joe. Get through to the Lion. And for a potential rush take with the Amaru, that is shut down now.
That's going to certainly handicap GG. The man count, the util, potentially the entire plan around the Amaru now has been compromised. DCH let loose over towards small tower. He as well in a position to potentially make a play. Could even go for a jump out here over towards double window. Sapper may make the call, but instead thinks better of it. That's the right call. Elevate have the advantage. They do not want to throw this away, knowing that match point is just on the other side.
Minute and 40 seconds. Nothing but silence on site now. Everyone just sort of holding their collective breaths. It's Tolji that's fallen. I don't think he's going to be able to get back up. He would need a miracle to get revived here. Onigiri pushing. Oh, Ape's been downed as well. Tolji did get revived, but they've lost Ape completely. It's 2 for Onigiri. It's a slaughter on Dorms for Elevate. It's match point. Elevate. Timeout called from the Gaming Gladiators.
Match point and a 99% chance of qualifying for SI point for Elevate. You can see the smiles beaming. A great start from Onigiri, the little master. Oh, he's good. He's so good in these moments, time and time again throughout the years, stepping up, putting his team on a platform, and they did the rest of the work. Great way to kick things off. GG capitulate. They trigger their one and only tactical timeout now of the game, and it is a huge tactical timeout for this team that could basically dictate whether or not they will be going to the major, keeping in mind a regulation win or an overtime win is all they need. A loss, however, just slightly ajars that opportunity for Fury to snatch it.
Yeah. I mean, look, it's not over yet for the Gaming Gladiators. Overtime is still very good for them, guys. It's not a case of them obviously needing to win in regulation. It does need to sort of be said that even for Gaming Gladiators, an overtime loss can actually still see them go through. Obviously, all dependent on what happens with Fury versus Tide. A Fury regulation win would oversee a GG overtime loss, but an overtime win for Gladiators is still good. It will be very, very good. So let's see what happens, though. Match point round for Elevate. Both of these two teams obviously would like to win in regulation. The good news, though, for Elevate, guys, is they can no longer lose in regulation, which means the only way Elevate will miss out on SI is an overtime loss and a Knights regulation win. That is the world we would be living in for that to eventuate. So that's why they were all smiles just then. They know what they just achieved.
The Knights, of course, taking on the Direwolves later on tonight. The Direwolves already secured their spot at the major, so it could be said that that is a danger game for the Direwolves, and the Knights, on a good night, a team that's always determined, hungry to win, could take it out in regulation. Never count them out from achieving that. So Elevate must just secure it here. Get it done. Do not take any risks whatsoever. On the topic of risks, they've been calculated from Onigiri. Cold and calculated in the last couple of rounds. These spawn kills, deadly. Joe copped one in the face last round, and it looks like Onigiri's hungry for more, but I don't think any opportunities will present themselves rather here in the 12th round.
And I know Onigiri is going to be getting all of the plaudits, and rightfully so, but Sapper has been able to stand up big time. In the, basically since the rehost, I would say, 8-4, evidently, before the rehost was not tracking all that well. And sort of felt like if Elevate was to win this match, they needed someone to be the Robin to the Batman of Onigiri, and he has been able to do that. Match point round. If GG lose this round, it is extremely likely they will not go to the major. They still could, but it would be reliant on Tide getting their first win at the stage. They are winless against a very good Fury team. To play after this. Onigiri low, but so is Joe. Zappa falls. That's one for GG. Now they got another one. Not quite yet. Onigiri does get rid of Joe. That's the ace goal. 90 seconds left.
Will the Lost in Hard Breach compromise GG? They still do have the Thermite to lean into. Fight over towards White Stairs. Hoven lands it. Advantage back in the hands of the Gaming Gladiators. Hoven needs to be careful. The vert angle from Mr. Punch. DCH as well, holding up above, holding pit. Hoven falls, but DCH steps up. Secures the down. 3v2, so it's flipped. Elevate on the edge of a victory, but DCH taken so low.
Rix. Oh, he gets a big one there, and Onigiri still low from that earlier engagement. So it's a 2 versus 2. It comes down to this. Are GG out? Is their spot at the major firmly on the line and falling the way for Fury to take it at the last grasp, the final hurdle? Rix with the diffuser in hand, just outside of security, close next to Mr. Punch. 30 seconds is all but remains now to see whether or not Elevate are firmly going to SI.
The breach opened. That's good pressure. 20 seconds now remains. Told you probably needs to go for the drop. They need to time this to perfection, or Elevate might be able to clean up.
Oh, the ping.
So, oh, that's huge.
That's Onigiri gone. It's Mr. Punch in a 1 versus 2. Into red time we go. He gets the first Stats diffuser down. He can play right off of that. Told you, does not have the time. No time, no diffuser, and potentially off the back of that round, no major for the Gaming Gladiators, but it is almost all but certain that Elevate, the pride of Thailand and the pride of APAC South, should very well be heading to the 6th Invitational. But for the Gaming Gladiators now, a very, very anxious wait awaits them in our next match. It's over to you, Fury.
What a game between these two, really setting the stage for the night. And a match which GG so desperately wanted to win falls away after such a good start. Elevate, persevere. They make good use of that tactical timeout, able to close out the game in a pretty convincing fashion. And you're right, 6th Invitational knocking on the door. Over a 99% chance that they will qualify. So you can basically book them in. They've put their best foot forward. They've had a great year, and they'll be looking to really have an impact overseas.
And obviously, as I was saying, and obviously will be talked about now for quite a bit of time because we do have Fury and Tide coming up next. It's over to Fury. It is up to them now to see whether or not they can go to the major. If Fury lose to Tide, Gaming Gladiators can still go. But if Fury win in any way, shape or form, OT win, regulation win, they will be heading to their first ever major. At the moment though, we head to the desk.